Welcome, my friends. This is Maniacal Incorporated returning to Suzerain. I'm not gonna lie, I've been kind of afraid to load up this game again because I imagine we are on our way to a catastrophic economic collapse. But then again, reckless, unsustainable overspending. What could be more indicative of an Irish-themed playthrough? Our economy is now at, our budget anyway, is at minus 20, the lowest it can go. The economy is in danger. Economic stability does not exist. There we go. Right. Let's try not to, I don't know, let's try not to sneeze. I have a feeling the economy will collapse if we sneeze at this stage. We have updates on the education situation. So we've left our Minister for Education bring in some reforms, which, from what I understand, have been a complete and utter disaster. Ah, there she is. After a meeting with the rector and a brief tour of the University of Valgin, we gathered in a room with Kira. The entire campus was visible from the windows. Students were reading books. They can still read, at least. That's something. Kira, fair play to you. You haven't messed up that much. It reminded me of my own times at Hallsword State University, at least the more carefree moments. So Kira Walda says, reminiscing about the past. Yes, Kira, about a time when I didn't have to listen to you. It had its ups and downs, but it was still fun. And now we're growing old and bitter. Yeah, that's a bit of projection there, I think, Walda. Let's not get sidetracked. I want to start off by saying this. Is it going to be an apology? Is it your resignation? Stagnation doesn't get anyone anywhere. Simply maintaining my ministry's funds got us sitting duck with the dozens of issues left unsolvable. Although I insist that the funds are still necessary to close the gaps in services, I can't say we have been entirely off track. I want to thank you for leading our education system in the right direction. Traditional teachings have long prevented proper progress. That is why we are here. No, you didn't play a part, Kira. She nodded and brought out a stack of papers from her bag. Resignation papers? Spinning her ballpoint pen, she went through the papers, organizing some of them together. That's all there is for... What? Was I brought all the ways here for this? I have talked with Miss Suno to schedule some more time to discuss the curriculum. She's a very astute woman, your secretary. You may want to consider promoting her. Oh, that's the one that Peter's taken a special interest in. We will meet again very soon. Keep up the good work, Kira. She put the papers back in her bag. She was giving out about funding, but she saw that number and she was like, nah, there's no point. There's no point in asking. We do technically have infinite funds at this stage, from what I understand. We can spend as much money as we want because there is no money. Money does not exist anymore. We've gone completely over to the blockchain. But I am going to try and control spending. I'm going to try and not spend. I'm going to try. Because technically, considering that we don't have any money, we shouldn't be spending money. Oh, Jesus, we have a ton of news. The iron grip on health ends. I think somebody promised me money, but it wasn't a huge amount. So we've opened up some privatization of the healthcare system. Swordish State Corporation delays railway construction. I think I gave them... Did I give these guys the contract because I just clicked a button to see if we could actually click buttons? Boosting the economy, Central Bank Reinforcement Act. So somebody's trying to reinforce the doors of the central bank the way people can't get in. Health requires more resources. Good luck finding them. A new mega project, the Sarna Agricultural Zone. That's what we set up last time round with Taurus. Overblown rights case appealed. So today the politically motivated and controversial court case of Ishval Erzin has made its way to the Supreme Court to be reviewed. I can't remember what we did with this. We're either allowing it to go through. I think we're allowing this to go through to create a constitutional crisis, aren't we? Or are we just creating a constitutional crisis? We're always creating a constitutional crisis. The governor of Borgia, Felix Braun, with his special powers, has dismissed the presence of systemic racism in the region of Borgia and accusations against his resettlement policies, citing that the Bludish are being influenced by the Bludish Freedom Front and radical priests. So all eyes are now on Chief Justice Hawker and the Supreme Court to determine if the case has legal grounds or not. Lackevin has nothing to say. The Whale, oh god, I forgot about this. The Whalan refugees fleeing to the Swordish border, oh hell's bells. Operation Bear Trap. So as Smolik continues his operations against Bludish insurgents in his country, a wave of people, Wessex, Swordish and Bludish, have been attempting to flee the conflict and cross the border into Sordland. Oh god, I'm sure we'll get something about that at some stage. Wessex Bludes seek refuge in Sordland. Bloodthirsty dictator Victor Smolik is at it again, the devil. According to latest reports, the number of Wessex Bludes displaced by the operation is at least 100. Oh, is that 100,000? Oh. That's a lot more. So stuck in between Rumburg and Lesbia, and Sordland, most of them are choosing their country, or our country. We must help these innocent people in the name of humanity or no one else will. And we have some inflation. And the Erzin case goes to the Supreme Court, and press freedoms in UC, a diminishing space. United Contana's grip on its media landscape continues to tighten. They've shut down TikTok, their version of TikTok. In the last couple of days, we've seen some announcements of DLC, so we saw something about Rumburg. So there's a Rumburg, like, strategic. It looks like, is it Ultimate Command? It looks a small bit like that. And then we're also going to have a Galmland DLC and a newspaper DLC. So lots of new content coming for this in the next couple of days. I'm already thinking about, like, playing the Rizia DLC with this load. So I didn't know you could do that this save file and all the actions I'm taking here as Anton Rain, that you can then play in Rizia, and those actions, the economic collapse of Sordland, will play out. So that's a really cool mechanic, and I'm excited to see then how that will again play out in Galmland. But let's focus on running Sordland into the ground before we run any other countries into the ground. We have a report. There you go. Speak of the devil. CSP's Unity Conference in Galmland. So the CSP Unity Conference recently held in Galmland marked a pivotal juncture in resolving ideological dissonances within the Alliance. Good. I'm delighted. That's fantastic. Wait, is it? Oh, if they're supporting Valgsland. Because we've kind of pissed them off a small bit by supporting Angland. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Right, Gazom State shares divestment. The state can sell its shares in Gazom. Oh, thank God, money. Money. But the price of shares can only go up. That's the way the stock market works. If we sell them now, we're missing out on all of the profits that we will make definitely in the next couple of weeks and months and years. We'd better sell these shares because I don't know. Given the financial landscape revealed by the Gazom report, a strategic decision on the divestment of our shares in Gazom looms. It is now possible to consider selling an amount of our stake in the company or keep our shares for a potential guaranteed future profit share. The future outcome will vary based on the active share prices of the company. Sell 2/3 of the shares or keep them for the future. We'll sell 2/3 of the shares. The Irish government issued massive bailouts in the late, the late noughties, do we want to say it that way, or the early 2010s to, after the financial crisis, the massacre, the murder of the Celtic Tiger, the brutal murder of the Celtic Tiger, and the banks had to be bailed out. So, obviously, protect the bondholders. They're the most important people in the economy. But you had this really weird scenario, which has been revived in the last couple of days, where basically Bank of Ireland became state-owned for all intents and purposes. And what the government has done over the last couple of years is it has sold off all of its shares. Long before, if they'd held on to them today, they'd have made substantially more money than they made when they sold them off in the past. But one of the things they were encouraged to do when the state effectively took over Bank of Ireland was to divest the Irish Parliament building from the company. So the Parliament, the Irish Parliament that had operated until the Act of Union in 1800, that building somehow ended up in the ownership of Bank of Ireland, and they've never used it. I think they were planning on turning it into their headquarters, but they didn't, so they have the old Parliament building, and the government never, we'll say, took it off of them when they had the chance, as part of their ownership of the company. They could have basically spun out the Parliament building and said, this is ours now, because the modern Irish Parliament is in somebody's sitting room, the Duke of Leinster, so they just took over his house, and the Parliament, or the Senate, is in his attic. And yeah, we just have somebody's sitting room is our Parliament. So in the last couple of days, people have said that the government should take over the Parliament building again. But I don't know how we do it now, because we don't own any shares in Bank of Ireland anymore. We sold them off before they were profitable. That's exactly what Anton Rain is going to do. We will sell 2/3 of our shares in Gazom. Will we actually get money for it? No. Are we selling have they gone on to the stock market? Will somebody buy them? It's clear I don't understand how to make money. That is clear. So the government, as all of the banks that the government bought were returning to profitability, the government started selling them off long in advance of when they could have made the maximum, I won't say maximum profit, but like if they'd held a substantial share of Bank of Ireland until today, they'd have made a ton of money. So we're doing the exact same thing. We're selling off Gazom before it becomes profitable. Briefing on the current curriculum. Oh lord, we'd better do this. Oh Jesus, we have a ton of stuff. Inflation? No. We'll start from the top and work our way down. So Kira has scheduled a short meeting. I hope it's as short as the last one. The ministry building was located in the government district right next to the Ministry of Health. It was tall, narrow, and wedge-shaped, like a slightly opened book. Ah. But how can the kids learn to read if they can't get in there? What is this? A wedge-shaped building for ants? Near the front gate, there were many statues of world-renowned scientists and thinkers. The largest, of course, was of Artvin Einstein. That makes sense, of course. The greatest scientist of them all. Yeah, great man. Above the main entrance was the familiar inscription. There you go. Education is the premise of progress in all societies, in all families. Inside the building, I was greeted by Kira's assistants. They led me to a meeting room where she was waiting inside. She stood and gripped my hand. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Kira. I will cut... Oh, Jesus. Are you going to tell me you need more funding? Are you dragging me across the country to tell me you need more money? The lack of government resources have halted our plans for education reform, but there is one important change that can still be made. It involves evolution versus creationism. As it currently stands, schools across Sordland can decide whether to include evolution, a vague and unproven concept, creationism, which we all know is the truth, or both in their curriculum. Rural schools often decide in favour of creationism only, fair play to them, which puts students at a disadvantage when it comes to entering university. The effect is especially noticeable among young women. My suggestion is to make the teaching of evolution mandatory and preferably ban creationism altogether. But no, God created the dinosaurs that became the oil that Gazam isn't extracting, isn't doing anything with. I don't agree with teaching our children supernatural nonsense like evolution. No, creationism's real. What? I don't see a problem with teaching our children both theories. Evolution is the idea that ought to be banned. It's dangerous. I don't know what the whole scenario here is. Like, how does creationism operate in this world? We'll go against creationism. I haven't heard it mentioned in a while, but we have had marching season. Well, we haven't. Very far from where I am, but in Northern Ireland they've had marching season for the last while. The DUP does, there are still aspects of the DUP that hold to creationism. And that's the big joke that's often thrown at them, is that they believe the world is about 4,000 years old. I don't like teaching our children. Who are we going to piss off with this? I don't like teaching them creationism. That's great to hear. It sounds like we are already aligned on the matter. Do we need money now to reprint all the books? Is that what you're going to tell me? Lucian, don't tell me you believe in creationism. Excuse me, some urgent business kept me away. Welcome, Mr. Gallade. Mr. President. Miss Walda. I was just reflecting on the fact that our world is only 4,000 years old. We were just discussing the curriculum. Kira has made some excellent points. Glad you came. I need to hear some opinions that make sense. Exactly. Yeah, I don't care why you're late. I've enough problems. Continuing from my previous point, it is my conviction that we should require the mandatory teaching of evolution in Sordland's public schools and cut creationism completely out. If we want children from rural areas to have the same opportunities as their urban counterparts, this is the way. Opening students' minds and reducing the role of religion in schools will also lead to more equality among young men and women. Don't bring your pet cause into this, Miss Walda. You failed your reforms and now you want to remove belief from schools? Advancing women's rights is more than just a pet cause. Both of you gentlemen must know this. Also, we all know why the education reforms failed, don't because you're useless. Kira looked at me. Your education budget didn't take the cut. Nothing can be done about it. Or didn't make the cut. Yes, and I am disappointed. I expected more from you. I was promised the sun, moon, and stars by this woman. Kira's eyes widened in disbelief, and she opened her mouth to say something, but she didn't. Good. Going back to the topic, although I myself believe in evolution, we must be careful not to alienate our rural conservative voter base. We owe a lot to their support. Forcing their school districts to teach evolution would irreparably damage our standing with them. Every modern nation is reducing or removing creationism in their curriculum, yet we're supposed to allow schools to promote fundamental and, yes, sexist ideas from 1,000 years back. Is creationism sexist? Kira thinks everything's sexist. Lucian says, so, is that what we're doing now, copying what other nations are doing instead of paving our own way? If it works, why not? Look at the analysis. It is clear that the superpowers are doing something right. Should we reinvent the wheel, Mr. Gallade? You speak as if we don't import any influences from other countries. That's not what I said. Their voices started to get louder and louder. I held my hand up to my head because I had a headache from listening to these people. We can still allow creationism to be taught alongside evolution. Kira, you could live with that. Evolution is the way forward. Creationism has no place in the public school curriculum. Schools should be able to teach creationism exclusively. We're trying to get... This was originally a Catherine Connolly playthrough, then it became a Catherine Connolly / de Valera playthrough. Now it's just a general Irish government vibe. playthrough, and the government is very strong on statements, evolution is the way forward, and on compromise. So it makes very pronounced statements, and then compromises / doesn't do anything. We can still allow creationism to be thought alongside evolution. Once the government will make very strong statements, but once they're then told this is going to upset somebody, they roll back on them. So we kind of start at the extreme of making change and then roll back to where nothing really changes all that much, but a lot of committee meetings are held. Yes, although I won't like it, Kira says, about teaching creationism alongside evolution, I still believe schools are no place for religion. The 1950s is a bit early to be getting religion out of the schools in Sordland or Ireland. I won't like it either. You will have to prepare to lose a lot of voters. What? You don't like what? You're the one that told me to do this. It is your decision. Don't forget future generations of Swordish youth are counting on you. From now on, creationism shall be banned and only evolution will be taught. I will make the teaching of evolution mandatory, but schools may promote creationism alongside it if they wish. We will stick to the current system. No. Teaching evolution is mandatory, but schools may promote creationism if they wish. Unfortunate. What are you on about? But it will have a better outcome than banning creationism altogether. I disagree. You people are making no sense. Rejecting creationism would have been a signal that we are redirecting Sordland towards a scientifically and technologically advanced future. Exactly, and we're not doing that. We're trying to keep the ship afloat and make as little severe... We're going to go around in a circle by baby steps. They turned and looked at each other. Lucian lifted his eyebrow and Kira held his gaze for a couple of seconds. Then they kissed. Oh no, the meeting ended shortly after. Okay. Oh god, what are the papers going to say about us? Economy stabilizing. Hey, look! Evolution has stabilized the economy. Maybe we should have committed fully to evolution. Lucian is holding back the economy. Kisaro, oh god, raises the bludish question. Kisaro Kibbener of the NFP proposed a law that would make Swordish the only language accepted in educational institutions, boldly standing up for Swordish culture and tradition. This law, the Unified Education Language Act, is squarely aimed at the bludish community, whose integration in Swordish society has long posed a problem. Educating children solely in the official language of the country will help cement their Swordish identity and quash the threat of bludish independence in Sordland. I wouldn't have imagined that he would have supported integration, so I don't know. He's being weird. I like what I'm seeing down here. Dyer proposes for Day of Dissension, the annual celebration of the founding of neutrality. The religion plays a smaller role in Swordish daily life than in years past. The day still holds special importance for many neurists, thousands of whom have already begun undertaking the pilgrimage to the tomb of Saint Dast. Nationalize the Big Four. As the debate about privatization versus nationalization intensifies in the capital, does it? The Hull Sword Post firmly believes that President Rain should come down on the side of nationalization of all of the Big Four, the corporations that have long defined Sordland's ownership debate. Part of Sordland and Bergia Steel remain entirely in private hands, and that should change. Full nationalization would prevent price gouging and prevent CEOs like Marcel Caranthi from consolidating power, but even the government taking minority ownership of both companies would go a long way towards ensuring they act according to state interests. Probably since Lemass. I'm actually reading the... it's kind of a biography of Lemass. He did some radio... No, he did an interview, I think in the 60s, and they were recorded, and the tapes were actually only released in the last few years. And a biography or kind of an edited version of the tapes has been published. And so since Lemass, basically the policy has been Lemass introduced the Control of Manufacturers Act, which would have been all about 100% Swordish ownership of these companies, and then revoked that in the 50s. And would be would be very much in favour of free market. The freer the market, the something. So I don't think we'll be going for privatization or even limited minority ownership. You see, I'm looking up at that -20. I'm looking up at that -20. Creationism or evolution? Rain says both. Exactly, why not both? Privatization, the future of Sordland. Don't let the pro-government elites fool you. Nationalization would be a disaster for our country. Instead, we advocate the privatization of the big four state-owned enterprises. Nedum Mining and the Swordish State Corporation. So, most certainly what the Irish government would, in a modern sense, be more in favour of would be privatisation of state-owned companies with limited government ownership. So, on the last newspaper, we were looking at currently private companies, nationalising them. Here we're talking about privatising state-owned companies. And that would be the government's policy. Basically, everything has been sold off in the last couple of years. Aer Lingus, I think we only have a minority stake in that now. So again, in Lemass's era, a lot of companies would have been set up to try and establish basically Irish ownership of things. So we had nothing. And we were heavily dependent on Britain to handle, we'll say, transport from the island to anywhere else, cargo from the island to anywhere else. And so we started setting up a number of state-owned companies, which in recent decades the government has largely sold off into private hands, keeping only minority stakes. So possibly this is where we would be looking, even though that most certainly would not be a Catherine Connolly type policy, privatisation. Rain's curriculum, compromise, forces schools to evolve slightly. Oh, radical. Oh, you guys. An ideological chess game in Rica. A deep dive into the workings of Iotaki, of the Iotaki plan, I should say, reveals more than just economic undertones. It's an intricate play to advance Malignavist ideologies in strategic battlegrounds. Sources have indicated that substantial funds from the plan are channeled to support Malignavist organizations and educational structures in Rica, a region poised between UC's Malignavist model and Arcasian capitalism. That's great. Good for them. I'm delighted. What in the good name of God has gone on here? Economy. Situations. Oh. England. Is that us? Thanks to the investments made by Sordland, the England region is stabilizing its economy. Does it have an economy? However, the region is still facing economic challenges and struggles to achieve sustainable growth. Well, that's great. Lauren. Economy stabilizing. The Lauren region is beginning to stabilize its economy thanks to the belief in evolution. Have we more? Borgia, major agricultural zone. The investments made by Sordland are accelerating the economy of the Borgia region. Fantastic. That's it. Okay, I thought we had more. So we have, there's Grooney. Oh yeah, Borgia. Where the hell's Borgia again? Lauren, so that's our, okay, no, Hullsword is our main area. And then England, so Agnolia is the people that we've sided with in relation to, is it Helgeland? It is. And pissing off Valgsland, right. So we have a report on, Governor Braun reports something. The governor of Borgia reports that the investment provided by the government has been put into use via various programs. Okay, that's good. The Ministry of Justice files Erzin versus Sordland concurrence. The Ministry of Justice has reviewed the Erzin v. Sordland case and put forward its concurrence opinion before sending the dispute to the Supreme Court. the Minister of Justice, Nia Morgana, came forward agreeing with the case of Ishval Erzan and pointed out that a majority court dissent would do disservice to the legal precedent of future constitutional rights cases. The case is now in the hands of the Supreme Court. So inflation hits Sordland. The Ministry of Economy reports that recent government spending... What reason? What? No. Considerable... No. We're selling shares and Pokemon cards. We're shares, Pokemon cards, and... Does somebody want a bank? Does somebody want the Ministry of Economy? We'll sell that to you. Does somebody want the Minister for Education? I'll sell her. Oh god, Casaro's putting forward his language bill. Secret State Police investigation update. Does somebody want to buy the Secret Police? They're doing very well. They've completed a preliminary investigation into suspected members of the Old Guard, including Orso Hawker, Heron Garcia, Lilas Graf, and Vulcan Kruger. Is Kruger part of the Old Guard? No concrete proof of corruption or other wrongdoing has yet been revealed. Valgan is suffering the effects of the economic recession, with unemployment spiking. Just go to Bergia. We have farms there. Everything's going fine. Wayland, operations a mixed success. Victor Smolak is drawing his operations against the Bluish Freedom Front to a close. The consensus is that while Wayland's army went a long way towards neutralising the threat, there are many preventable casualties. Furthermore, despite their best efforts, not all hideouts have been eradicated. Good job, Smolak, well done. Rehabilitation of Quinnell, the balancing act of ATO. Amidst growing tensions, the ATO is engaged in a delicate balancing act with Quinnell, a key member, showing signs of distancing itself from full membership to observer status. Central to the shift is a dispute resolution between Quinnell and Arcassian PMCs, which has fueled concern over sovereignty, rules-based order, and autonomy for Quinnell. PMCs. Does somebody want to buy Sordland's army? Turn it into a PMC? I'll sell anything. I'm desperate. I'm desperate for money to waste on other things. I thought we had a ton of other stuff. The Energy Inflation Reduction Act aims to address the recent surge in energy prices due to foreign entities' manipulation of key energy companies. The Grand National Assembly proposes these countermeasures. Section 1 establishes a temporary price cap on gas prices to prevent extreme hikes in energy costs for Sordish citizens. Left-leaning parties in Ireland who would have rallied around Catherine Connolly love temporary price caps. Love them. Section 2 calls for the negotiation of bilateral agreements with energy-rich countries for stable and reasonably priced energy supplies. This strategy would insulate Sordland from price manipulation tactics and ensure a more stable energy market. So we're gonna stabilize, or we're going to insulate Sordland from our own energy companies, which are controlled by foreign entities. We're going to go to foreign entities, and we're going to get them to help us. Section 3 outlines the strategic expansion and modernization of domestic energy production capabilities. It's saying -1 government budget. We can't go any lower. And my hope is that we're going to sell those shares and make money later. I mean, at the moment, the economy is in effective collapse. It was foolish. Dev team, it was foolish putting a minimum. It was silly putting a minimum there. Free expansion of the energy sector. Who's going to say no? Not me. As the... Oh my god, that line goes up. Wow, that's the first time I've ever seen that in my life. Okay, it went up there for a while as well, but... Now, we have some news to attend to. We also have an overview. The economy, so there's the Inflation Act that we have just implemented. I was wondering what was lighting up there. President Rain signs the Energy Act. Fair play to him. Great man. The ERA signed a small victory for the people. Big victory for small people. Those guys wouldn't write a good word about me. The Radical wouldn't write a good word about me if I paid them. If I paid them. Oh, Jesus. Attending the Victory Day event. Out in the open. Is this another chance for an assassination attempt? Not with Serge driving. Serge drove us to the city of Jen, the stronghold of Sordish nationalists, for an event organised by the opposition parties to discuss current events. I thought it was a Victory Day parade. In reality, it was probably a publicity stunt to show Sordland that the leaders of the assembly could sit around the same table. The National Front Party, look at him there, the big smiley face in him, which governed the city, undoubtedly had the biggest hand in the organisation of the meeting. It was not a coincidence that it fell on Victory Day. That's not Casaro Kibbener, that's Peter Vectrin. another man with a big smile on his face for a variety of different reasons. I'm glad you've managed to pull yourself out of whatever hedge and whatever young one it was that you were showing said hedge to, Peter. Today was a day of special symbolic importance for Sordland. Every year on the 14th of March, proud patriots from all ages gathered to prepare for St. Patrick's Day. Jen had survived one of the worst atrocities of the war, and its Victory Day celebrations were the most jubilant in all of Sordland. Originally, only Peter and I were scheduled to attend, but after learning about new developments with the Ishval Erzin case, Nia Morgna was invited as well. Representatives from both the PFJP and NFP had told us that they wanted to talk about the case in more detail. You wouldn't describe them as nationalists, would you? Nia departed Hallsword first. Peter and I left on our own a little later. Oh god, this is going to be a fun conversation. Peter was sitting next to me in the presidential car, skimming through the morning newspaper in silence. Suddenly, Serge rolled down the soundproof window. Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, we are about to arrive at the Jen Centre of Culture. Miss Morgna has already arrived and she will be waiting for you. Peter raised his head to look out the window. He folded the newspaper and laid it beside him. Wow, that was too comfortable of a drive to have been this fast. See? I wasn't joking. Serge is the best. This is why Serge is going to replace you as Vice President. No kidding. My driver, Sveta, can't hold a candle to him. Although I sure wouldn't mind navigating her dangerous curves one day. Peter laughed. Serge gulped. Nah. I should ride with you guys more often. I can't believe I could actually read on the go. You are embarrassing me, sir. I'm no special man. It's the Cadila, and my curves are nothing to speak about. Oh, Serge, you're being too humble. You have fantastic curves, Serge. Serge took a left turn and drove through the tiny streets of Jen. The city looked surprisingly clean and well maintained. There was no sign of the destruction the city suffered during one of the heaviest battles of the Civil War a number of decades ago. I mean, yeah, I presume they've cleaned up the place since then. We slowed down in front of a colourful plaza overlooking a massive concrete building with a giant sign that read, Jen, Centre of Culture. Looks like the NFP mayors have really transformed the city. Wasn't this an abandoned warehouse for the longest time? I believe it used to function as a rebel militia base during, and a little while after, the Civil War. Oh right, the Black Battalion. Let's not sour the mood with memories of the Civil War. It's been a while since I've heard that name. The Black Battalion. So yeah, I don't know much about these guys. They did pop up. I think bodies belonging to Black Battalion members were found somewhere. If you remember, they used places like this to organise in the 30s. Luckily for us, Soll handled them long ago. Well, maybe not all of them. Their democratic counterparts, like the Young Swords, lived on, after all. So, right-wing nationalist political organisation that alleged connections to a number of armed attacks against the Sordish government. Was it a member of them who shot your man? Sir Cass. Serge stopped the car and went outside to hold our doors. Here we are, sirs. I hope you have a great day. We got out of the car and walked towards the entrance of the building. Every spot around us was decorated with the flags of Sordland. The comically large amount of flags almost fully enveloped the building around the plaza in maroon, white, and gold. At the entrance, Cesaro Kippener, the head of the National Front Party, was waiting for us in his iconic brown suit, watching the sky. Look at this guy, so full of himself. How did this clown convince the PFJP to have trilateral talks with them anyway? Probably the same reason why we're here. It's Victory Day, remember? Honestly, it says more about friends than the PFJP. He's a dangerously competent man, Victor. We should be cautious with him. Yeah, it's Victory Day, Peter. How can I forget? Lucian nagged about the importance of the day for 20 minutes straight. It broke my soul. Seeing us arrive, Cesaro approached us with a smile. Thank you for being here on this glorious day, Mr. President and Mr. Vice President. As the former mayor of Jen, it is an honor to welcome you to this fine city. Thanks, Mr. Kippener. It looks like you were a good mayor. Maybe you should think about running for local office again. Yeah, get out of the... F off. We don't want you in the parliament anymore. Thank you, Mr. Kippener. We shook hands. Thank you for organizing this, Mr. Kippener. The representatives of the PFJP and Minister Morgna are already inside the private meeting room. Oh my god, it's a surprise party. It's a surprise for me. It's for my birthday. Hopefully, we'll be finished before the festivities start. Cesaro gestured at the door behind him. Shall we? Before we go in, is there any way we can discuss how you can help us with the constitutional... No. No. I don't think there's going to be any... No. There's going to be no discussions with Cesaro. Just follow me. We entered the building and walked through a massive conference hall until we approached a door towards the back of the building, and everyone jumped out and shouted surprise. We'll have the meeting here. And everyone jumps out and shouts surprise. Cesaro opened the door for us and we entered the meeting room. PFJP leader Franz Richter and his deputy, Manoli Suhil, were already seated at the left side of the table. So this guy, he's the deputy of the NFE. This is a guy I haven't seen before. He's also, oh look, they all have matching brown suits. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, they're all dressed in matching brown uniforms in the NFP. That's great. With the rise of Cesaro Kippener in the 40s, he lost his influence in the party and resigned in 49 after Kippener was voted in as leader. He was later invited by Kippener to rejoin the party ahead of the 1953 elections and was appointed as the party's group deputy chairman. So he was a founding member of the NFP. He promoted ethno-nationalist policies in the 30s and became a famous figure for his aggressive speeches in the Grand National Assembly. Lovely. Here's the PFJP deputy leader, staunch anti-Solist. There's our best friends. Who's this guy? Oh, yeah, Peter. I didn't recognize you, Peter. Your kidneys are getting fairly badly affected by all the alcohol. As soon as we entered, Nia came to greet us. After showing our seats, Cesaro sat down next to his deputy, Remus Alstron. This is such a meaningful day. Thank you for coming here on behalf of your parties. But despite the festive atmosphere, is Cesaro going to have us all shot? But despite the festive atmosphere, we and the PFJP want to raise a few important... I'm sorry, what? The two of you... The two of you are working... Okay, is everyone here at the table going to have me and Peter shot? Important concerns about the worrying state of affairs in Sordland. Cesaro stopped for a moment to check his notes. Very worrying indeed. Shut up, Remus. Mr. Richter and his analysts have been working on an analysis. That's what analysts do, Remus. Well done. Of the blood problem. Yeah, Remus Remus's blood problems, alright. As soon as they brought it up, we gave our support without reservations. The blood problem? Mr. Hull... I'm sorry to interrupt, but the analysis is about racism and radicalization in Sordland, and our main topic is the case of Erzin versus Sordland. Please don't try to spin it. Remus saw something about racism and was like, yes, I like it. I'm backing it. I'm supporting it. Mr. Holstron just wanted to point out that this analysis was focused mainly on topics related to the Bludish people. Why are we discussing this on Victory Day? Why was I dragged out of bed at 12:30 in the day? I could still be in bed. I'm surprised that your parties have conducted a joint analysis. Yeah, absolutely. We thank the NFP for assisting our research, of course, but this is by no means a joint analysis. Our parties have vastly different opinions. I don't know, Manoli, you seem to look at you all around the table. If this meeting is going to turn into a racist summit, I will take my leave immediately. And I turn to Halstron and I say, I don't like associating with racists like this, pointing at the PFJP. I will hear you out, but know that I will not act on anything before talking to representatives of the Bludish community. I don't want to... I put something in the Constitution and they started... well, okay, no, I can't paint them all. They. The universal they. Oh no, we're all racists against the Bloods. Alright, I'm listening. Let's get back on track, ladies and gentlemen. He gestured at friends. I want to give the word to Mr. Richter to explain the issue. Thank you. Look at that for a jawline. Our analysis of the current tensions between the Bludish and Sordish population in Sordland displays a worrying picture. As much as I hate to say it, the threat of the Bludish Freedom Front is getting real again. The situation with Rumburg and Wayland is very concerning. The increasingly discriminatory actions of the Governor of Bergia are resulting in the radicalization of many young Bludish people. Distressingly, the number of radicals have increased significantly after Wayland's Operation Bear Trap, which I did not join in on because I'm not a war criminal. I want those words repeated at my war crimes tribunal. I did not engage in those specific war crimes. I must also point out that the recruitment numbers of the BFF have significantly increased with nearest communities. So friends, best friends forever? Bludish friends forever. Peter frantically looked through his papers. That is correct. The report... What report, Peter? What the hell are you on about? The report shows that 39 nearest sanctuaries in Bergia are now classified as red threats by the authorities. Many priests in the region, those damn priests, are also suspected of having ties to the BFF. The Religious Harmony Bill would have directly crippled this network they established within our sanctuaries. As the threat the BFF poses is a direct one, this issue requires direct actions that would bear direct results. Yeah, wasn't there some absolutely mad bill to outlaw religion? And I voted against it. I'm disappointed by the lack of action taken by the USP administration. I've been doing tons of action. They've all been the wrong things, but I've been doing a ton of things. Your bill would have unnecessarily raised the already high tensions. I'm regretting my decision to veto that bill. Your bill would have made everything worse. What do you and your brown-suited gentlemen suggest? Your bill would have unnecessarily raised the already high tensions. You did well by vetoing it, Mr. President. Here, have a cookie. Our suggestion is to finally enforce the official language of the country as stated in the Constitution. We are working on the Unified Language Act. It is directly aimed at the breeding grounds of the Bludish Freedom Front. The police have infiltrated 32 BFF training grounds in remote towns around Bergia that posed as middle schools. Despite all the evidence, similar schools keep popping up. We will outlaw education. And so-called activists are constantly blocking Governor Braun's attempts to stop these schools, claiming he is attacking their right to language. You can't take away the Bludish people's right to be elected, or to be educated in their own language. That is insane. Please read the proposal carefully. It does not take away everyone's rights. It only gives the state a way to control the radicalization in these schools that teach Bludish nationalist propaganda. It's the Christian Brothers. That's what it is. We're the English. We're complaining about the Christian Brothers, hyping everyone up for the 1916 Rising. And according to the Constitution, the language of Sordland is Sordish. If nothing is being done to enforce that, we are breaching the Constitution. This law simply enforces it. With all due respect, Mr. Kibbener, this bill is not strong enough. The Bludish language should be completely banned. You know, people like Miss Suhail or Miss Morgana, woman, will never even vote for your watered-down bill. These damn women, these men of woe. Remus, says Casaro, trying to rein in. This is probably the most moderate person in the party that Casaro could find to come along and try and back him up. True, it does not ban Bludish language or Bludish education. It will instead make Sordish mandatory to learn for everyone living in this country. This will only decrease the tensions in the long term. That's a fair point, friends, Richter. I'm kinda surprised. However, the wording of the bill is far too vague to work as intended. It gives the government too much power over educational institutes. I disagree. The language is quite clear and is in line with the Constitution, but we can still improve it. Of course, it is true that it gives more control, but it is a necessary compromise. I'll sign the bill if it reaches me. I'll have to read it in detail to decide if I can support it. I don't see how this helps with the situation. Even if the Assembly supports it, I will surely be using my veto on it. We've been using that veto a whole lot. I don't see how it helps the situation, but I also don't see how the current status quo helps the situation. I don't see how this situation can be helped. Could we not make Bludish the official state language? So we all have to learn that. I'll have to read it in detail to decide if I can support it. I'm hoping that this is a kind of a hint to Casaro that if he can incorporate whatever wording that my best friends would rather, I would consider implementing it. The PFJP will not allow this bill to pass the Assembly. Let's not make statements that the party hasn't agreed on yet. Manoli looked furious. She opened her mouth to respond, then read the room and closed it again. As if the PFJP has the influence to change the outcome. If I may continue with our analysis... Yeah, shut up, Remus. The situation is also connected to Rumburg, as everybody already knows. In the case of a future incursion, BFF forces in Sordland could become an existential threat. That's why we have to remove the authority of the governor. With all due respect, I already received this information from Internal Affairs. Tell me something we don't know, such as about your trips abroad. Have you been on any trips abroad there recently? You sound like Miss Graff. Maybe the NFP influences you more than you think, Mr. Richter. That's why we need to remove the authority of the governor. That's why we need to remove the authority of the governor. It's great that we're aligned on this matter. We have to do something about it, because the reality is the secessionists are on the rise. He adjusted his tie and continued. Our analysis matches with what the Ministry of Interior shared with us, but despite this fact, we believe the Ministry is hiding information from us. Secret information, which is actively fueling the tensions behind the scenes. As much I now support a strict response against the BFF, it must also be coupled with the expansion of rights for the Bludish people. This is the only way to fight against radicalization. That is BFF propaganda. What rights are we talking about here? What can a sword in Sordland do that a Blood cannot? You are using soft language as a cover-up for your willingness to negotiate with terrorists. You are a BFF apologist, Mr. Richter. Remus shouted the last sentence. Peter tapped on the table to get his attention. Please don't raise your voice, Mr. Hallström. The mood in the room had turned sour. Is the USP that desperate for Mr. Richter's support now? Manoli bellowed out a loud laugh. Mr. Vectron is the last person to sway the PFJP. You, Mr. Vectron, and a closet. 7 minutes, Miss Manoli, and he'll probably prove you right on that matter. What's that supposed to mean? What did I do? Enough! This is a mess. I thought we were here for a proper meeting. Yeah, can we return to the topic? I forget what the topic is. You heard the man. Thank you, Casaro. Please finish your point, Mr. Richter. We require your support with a more pressing matter. This might have very significant consequences for our Bludish citizens and may serve as a dangerous trigger if we're not careful. Casaro is beginning to see, like, if we can just bring everybody on board with moderate policies, we can start to slowly bring through our policies against the Bloods. So Casaro is like, Remus, don't screw this up. Friends gestured at Manoli. She carefully placed several pieces of paper in front of her. Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, and Miss Minister. As you already know, there is a major Supreme Court case at the moment. What, really? Ishval Erzin is suing the governor of Borgia, Felix Braun, for infringing upon the liberties of Bludish people and demands that the constitution be revised. Miss Manoli, do you look to your right and up a bit? Yeah. Do you see that big feather? Do you see that big feather? Do you know what that is? Because of the argument and the implications, Felix Braun, and, consequently, the very constitution of Sordland is under trial. The fact is, he needs to be punished, and the constitution must be reviewed. I thought you were saying, Ishval Erzin needs to be punished. I was like, Jesus, this is a bit extreme. I'm aware of this case. In fact, we are already working on revoking the current special zone status of Borgia. We are already aware of this case. Please explain. Do I want to, sitting at this table, tell Casaro, Kibner, and Remus that we are revoking the special zone? Do we want to go to Borgia and tell these two individuals that we are... Felix Braun is he USP? He is. In a lovely brown suit. Got a big brown suit on him that would not go astray in the NFP. We are already aware of this case. Nia raised her hand and spoke. I was actively involved in this case. Because of the implications with the Constitution, there is no way the Supreme Court will agree with Ishval Erzin on all of the points. Not if all three parties of the Assembly support Erzin together. We can put pressure on them, and we only need them to agree on a few of those points. And why do you think it would influence the court's decision? All parties? Is the NFP really willing to support Erzin, Mr. Kibner? I'm listening. What do you want to know, Mr. President? What do you want to tell me? What is the most likely outcome of the case? First and most likely option is that the Supreme Court completely ignores the arguments and rejects it in its entirety. If they ignore all the points and strike against Erzin, Governor Braun will be free to follow his discriminatory policies without any obstacles. Hear, hear, says Remus. And in a possible future case, the court's interpretation of the Erzin case will be the basis of all future rulings, which opens the way of suspending the rights of non-swords. Hear, hear, shouts Remus even louder. It would effectively erase any progress that has been made regarding Bludish rights and will embolden anti-Bludish proponents to follow their actions freely. Remus almost falls off his chair, he shouts so loudly. We definitely can't let that happen. That would be disastrous for our Bludish citizens. Bludish rights and the BFF have been major issues for many decades now. I don't see how this case makes either any worse than before. Yeah, and how does that affect my election chances? Honestly, it doesn't, as long as there's no big Bludish revolt or anything. Peter, what are you smiling about, Peter? But regardless, we must do our best to decrease the tensions. What part of it don't you understand? If these legitimate claims are rejected, they will not be raised again in other cases. This will, in practice, only end up legalizing discrimination against all non-swords. Yeah, but it doesn't affect me. That's the most important thing. That is precisely why our expectation is to see a different result this time. The stakes couldn't be higher. What are your plans and suggestions? Casaro speaking. In short, the plan is to release a unified statement to the justices declaring our support for Erzin and explaining why this is so important. The only good result would be if the Supreme Court reiterates its commitment to the pillar of unity in Solism. I'm kind of sad I didn't speak to this guy about the Constitution now outside the door. Mr. President, despite previously being against it, I now completely understand why Sordland still needs Solism. We need unity more than ever. And Article 6 is that unity. We do not need solaced unity. Solism is the founding ideology of the Second Republic. Sometimes the term Old Guards and Solace are used interchangeably. Solism is regarded as the state ideology of Sordland, and has been preserved by the Solist politicians and judges who were appointed by Tarquain Soll and allegedly act as members of a deep state called the Old Guards. Casaro stared Remus down, regretting his decision to call him back into the party after he rose to power, and continued. If the court reiterates the definition of sword in Article 6 as an all-encompassing term, they would be acknowledging that Erzin and others like him are indeed protected by the rights of the sword peoples, which they are. As a result, the resettlement policy in Dire would be reversed, opening the way for Governor Brand's removal and the de-escalations of tensions in Bergia. Is that true, Miss Morgna? Doesn't that mean the existence of the Bludish people is literally not being acknowledged? That actually makes a lot of sense. What about those who don't want to be called a sword? I understand. What does the PFJP think? First of all, Nia, explain it to me like I'm 5. Explain it to me like I'm Kira Walda. That is correct, Mr. President. Thank you. Doesn't that mean the existence of the Bludish people is literally not being acknowledged? Sure, we'll ask that. Exactly, our current constitution fails to recognise the Bludish people. It is time we abolish the inherent racism in it. The citizens of Sordland are swords. The constitution clearly defines that in Article 6. It encompasses everybody. This shouldn't be up for debate. What racism are you talking about? Solism is based on civic nationalism, not ethnic. I do not understand why someone would go against such a broad and inclusive law. I don't see the commies criticising their Contanin identity, when in fact that country is filled with different ethnicities. I don't think those words can be printed in the paper. I see your point, but I still don't understand why the NFP suddenly had a change of heart, because Contana has nothing to do with this, and Article 6 is inherently racist. Why are we even comparing Sordland with United Contana? Are you alright, Mr. Kibbener? Mr. Kibbener, has Peter been giving you whatever bottle it is that he snuck in here? Have you been trading drinks out of whatever what gene he has in his pocket. I don't know if I want to know why the NFP has had a change of heart. I mean, we're not abolishing Bludish culture. Their religion is going to be protected. Their cultural traditions will be protected. I agree with Mr. Kipner. I say under my breath. A united Sordland is what we need. Exactly. Does the Maliniev call himself Kevoyan before Contanin? Why is it that Bloods cannot do the same? Why can't the Sword Patriots wish for unity? You have a point, but I must point out that Contana is the word for Peter, shut up, not now. This is Sordland. You can subscribe, like and comment, to whatever idea you want, but if you are a citizen, you are a sword. This is how nations work. Oh god, this guy's going to tell us the reality of blood. The reality is the Bloods do not respect nor recognise the laws and authority of Sordland. They'd rather separate themselves from swords and protest the very laws that protect them. So they can cry about injustice and ask Sordland's enemies to come and save them. I personally do not agree with the Bloods are swords solaced crap. I can't believe the words being thrown around at this meeting, says poor Nia. And what is the position of the PFJP? The PFJP is going to be as divided as the NFP. Thankfully, there's complete and utter unity in the USP. I personally, somewhat, kind of, almost agree with some of the things Mr. Kibbener may have said. However, our position as the PFJP is that Article 6 does indeed discriminate against non-swords. And having a positive outcome for this case alone doesn't suffice. We agreed to come together in support of Ishval Erzan, but we believe our statement should include the acknowledgement of the inherent racism within the Constitution. We must use this opportunity to show the flaws in the Constitution. The one that I'm rewriting, is it? The one that I'm rewriting when I'm not being dragged halfway across the country for Kira to tell me she wants more money. That Constitution, is it? If the court agrees that there is in fact conflict between the articles or recognises the And the Hawker Court is going to listen to that, says Casaro. Besides, we do not agree with your inherent racism hogwash. You have to state that it is your party's opinion and does not reflect the NFP. We won't take part in that. That would make the statement look weak and disorganised. Yes, I love it. If there's no consistent strategy, I don't think it would work. I've heard enough. I think I have enough information to be able to say we are deep in the mud here. Peter laughed at his own joke attempt. When Casaro, do you want to be vice president? Well, I think the NFP's stance could do some good for the Bludish without provoking the establishment, but even that might be risky right before the vote. But the PFJP stance would be too radical for our party. I think it might be better to keep our administration out of this. I'm not sure if it's worth the risk right before the vote for our reforms, but the decision is yours. Tell me why we should pressure the court to admit discrimination within the Constitution. Who am I talking to? Peter? I hope not. Thank God. Minoli says that we should pressure the court to admit discrimination because it is the right thing to do. Go away with the right thing. Now is not the time for weak and superficial actions. No, it's always the time for those. We can show the people of Sordland the reality of the situation. Do the people of Sordland care about the reality of the situation when the economy is collapsing? And create a precedent for a future constitutional amendment of these articles. I'm rewriting the entire there's not going to be a future amendment. And the NFP is willing to join in with the statement. How do you think the Supreme Court will react if we do it your way? The NFP is willing to join in with the statement? No, we are willing to give our support for Erzan, for the violation of his right to property. But if we are going to go that way, We have to make 2 separate statements. Who am I asking this of? Friends? We're asking how we think the Supreme Court will react if we do it your way. We have to try. If they truly care for the people, they will agree to it. If not, people will see the reality of the Solist state apparatus. What do you suggest we do, Miss Morgna? Nia leaned in and whispered, I agree with Mr. Richter and Miss Suhail. I personally think we should join them in their statement. I also agree that Chief Justice Hawker won't have a sudden change of heart because of it. But we must put pressure on the justices nonetheless. I think I have made my own position clear. In the end, it is your decision. What about you, Peter? Peter leaned in and whispered, I don't think this would work, Anton. Hawker won't be influenced. Plus, it could further antagonize them against our reforms. We will definitely lose votes. In my opinion, the PFJP has the most to gain from this. They would be seen as the leaders of the table, not us. Tell me why we should try to convince them to reiterate their position on Article 6. Convince who? Because it is the only way to decrease tensions, and the Supreme Court can't afford to look hypocritical. I got very confused there, and I was like, hypocritical? What the hell? So they'll have to take the Solist side. I still think this is admitting defeat against Solism, but Mr. Kibner is right. The Rumburg situation demands extraordinary measures. I've already decided. The USP will join the statement. We would agree that Articles 6 and 7 are inherently discriminatory and in conflict with the rights of the people, as Mr. Richter suggested. I don't want to be putting words into Miss Richter's mouth. The USP will join the statement. We would agree that the Bludish people are considered swords before the law, as Mr. Kibner suggested. I don't want to release a unified statement with the opposition. We will not involve ourselves in this case. I think at this stage, the only thing that Anton Rain has to try and keep himself going is this new constitution. It's going to be one of the last 2 options. This is a fairly tough one. I don't think we can risk pissing off the Supreme Court if there is a chance that it's going to possibly come around to supporting our reforms. That's the most important thing. We need to get this constitution across the line. We need to get that goddamn feather off the map. If there is some way of dealing, the Rumburg situation is also getting pretty severe. We will argue that the Bludish people are considered swords before the law, as Mr. Kibner has suggested. That's great to hear. Look at him, he's smiling. He is, really, believe me. You have to trust me. We will get to work immediately after the celebrations. I don't like the sound of this. Nia, I've given you a lot of leeway. No, I haven't, have I? Who wanted the secret police? I can't remember. Remus and Nia, the two of you should go and set up a party. Remus also doesn't like the sound of this as much as it may be. I literally clicked on this because you said Mr. Kibner is right and the Rumburg situation demands extraordinary measures. This will only strengthen the solism of the USP. Well, there you go. That's grand. We all know swordists don't agree with solist nationalism. They're called swords. Remus. We'll talk about that later, Remus. Swords will have to listen to me this time. We will also support the effort for the sake of a positive result. We appreciate all your comments, ladies and gentlemen, but now that the USP stance is clear, we should probably go get a drink. After bidding our farewells, Casaro took us inside the building to join the Victory Day event on the plaza. Oh, good mother of the divine nearest god, what are they going to say? Budget increase! The budget has gone up! Yes! We don't have money, but we have leeway until we don't have money. Oh, that's the greatest victory that we've ever secured. We got 3 whole euros for selling our shares. The Big Three unites against Governor Braun. Yesterday's Victory Day celebrations marked a historic moment for Sordland's political landscape. All the parties in the Assembly, the USP, the PFJP, and the NFP, not the Communists because they're not there, released a joint statement demanding the Supreme Court to remove Governor Braun from office and to serve the justice that is due to the Bludish citizens. The party brought up Article 6, so the parties brought up, oh god, no, it's a grand coalition. We're all going into, it's like Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. All the warring civil war parties, we're all going to end up in bed together. A rotating president. Brought up Article 6 of the Constitution, which defines all citizens as swords, in air quotes, whatever that means. Poor old Governor Braun. How's he doing? There he is in his big old brown coat. He was later appointed as governor. I was just wondering if we were going to see any updates to his bio. We do support the notion that all citizens of Sordland must be treated equally under the law, and Governor Braun must ensure that the policies and decisions made by the Special Zone Administration are in line with this principle as enshrined in the Constitution. So that was what, the Hullsword Post, the Lackavin Times. WBP condemns President Rain. The Workers' Party of Bludia has voiced their dissatisfaction with President Rain's recent statement regarding the case of Ishvel Erzan. They don't want to have their rights protected. While they appreciated the supportive statements, they felt that the president failed to address the underlying issue of inherent racism in the Constitution. So, Fethia Ijal, the leader of the WBP, that is a magnificent mustache, in all fairness, said that there is no way for the Bludish community to support the government they don't support the government anyway, so it doesn't make a difference, does it? Their reaction has sparked debate amongst the public, with some agreeing with their stance and others criticising their condemnation of the government. Co-investment strategy pays off. For Gazam, Sordland's co-investment strategy with Rizia in Gazam has been a resounding success. This international cooperation has led to massive energy costs and a crumbling economy, if I'm correct. Great. Fantastic. USP, NFP, and PFJP display their commitment to Solism. You could have condensed that down, Radical. You could have done a better job. The Constitution was written by and for the dominant Swordish culture. It is inherently racist and fails to account for the diversity of the people of the land. The Constitution's mere existence reinforces... And I'm changing the damn thing. Give me time and money and more options. Oh, you people. We'll see what lies ahead of us. An abrupt surge in... Thanks, Gazam and Rizia. Oh my god, imagine what a Rizia playthrough after this is going to be like. Just all the money. Price surge takes a toll. Price surge. Dire reels under the... Oh, Jesus. Oh, mother of God. You people. You... I don't know what to say about you. Where did the money come from? Nobody's told me where the money actually came from. Did it come from selling the shares? Is that why I have money? There we go. Gazam share sale result. Read the Gazam divestment financial report to see the results of the sale of state shares. The board of Gazam approved and concluded the sale of shares. The final transaction resulted of the divestment have arrived in this report. Minister Hall and Minister Manger have facilitated the entire process with former President Alfonso of Gazam, and the returns are on their way to the state treasury. There we go. Not even going to look at the number. It was massive returns. Huge. Jesus, we got even more money. absolutely bloody fantastic. So we got money from something. And then we got even more money. Massive returns from Gazam shares. Due to careful planning, the state treasury has reported appointing returns from Gazam share divestment. This outcome reflects the inherent predictability of market dynamics and the fantastic treasury. Continue. Chapter 3. So we made it to the end of Chapter 2. I didn't think that I was going to make it here. I did notice recently that there's like a list of achievements for getting through various chapters. I'm sure Chapter 3 now is going to be clear sailing. It's going to be really easy. We're going to have a fantastic time. And so at the start of Chapter 3, the Economist has run out of paper. Heartbreak for FC Anrika as FC Gelsord secure back-to-back league titles. The world ignores the Bludish plight. And Valgish man shot after burning Agnolian flag. There you go. Let's see what other... We're never going to see either of these two built, are we? That's never going to get built. We have BFF recruitment. A group of BFF missionaries are seeking to recruit militants. Governor Braun reported that the gendarme forces in the area are now actively working towards eliminating the threat. And we'll just take a very brief look at what lies ahead of us. A call from our good friend Marcel Caranthi. Probably, maybe it was him that sent that £3 to us. I think we're possible. Are we still in economic collapse territory? If they send me any bills, look at this, to the moon, to the absolute moon. Okay, maybe not to the moon, but we're approaching stability. We've almost stabilized the economy. And you see, because of the way economics works, because we were way up here, what we had to do was we had to drop the economy. This was a planned governmental policy. We had to drop the economy all the ways down here, and what it's going to do is it's going to rebound and it's going to shoot all the ways up. That's, you see, this was all planned. That's how economics works. The number goes down, and then as it reverts to the mean, the further away from the mean it is, the faster and more rapid it reverts, and that's going to then catapult it into the stratosphere. We're going to have all of the money that has ever existed in the world soon enough. That's how economics works. You can trust that man. He knows. Thank you very much for joining me on this episode. I hope that you will join me on the next one for our phone call with Marcel Caranthi so that we can beg him for money.